Hello, my name is Ed Edelson, and I'm here with my friend, Coach Tony Morrissey. Tony, good morning.
Good morning.
Tony is the co-founder of an important substance abuse disorder and recovery foundation in New Milford, and we're here to discuss the important work being done by him and so many of his volunteers. Thanks again for taking the time, Tony. As you know, I was really impressed with the recent festival in New Milford back on August 25th. So why don't we begin with some background on the festival and how it went from your perspective?
Sure. Well, thank you very much for sitting down and chatting with us, learning more about our foundation, and really thank you for coming not once but twice to our festival a couple Sundays ago. That was our fourth annual overdose awareness 5K and recovery festival, which was held here in the beautiful town of New Milford, Connecticut. And really, the intent of that festival is to it's there's a lot of intentions behind it, but really the biggest thing is to create awareness about the national epidemic that we're fighting through with regard to the overdose epidemic. Our goal with the festival is to create awareness, spur conversation, provide direct resources, get families to come down, connect, and just start the conversation about what's going on. And the more folks hear about what's going on, the more alarmed they are, which is actually a good thing because then that's when we start to take action. The festival we're super proud of. It began with a 5K in the morning. We had about 200 participants in the 5K, which was our best year yet. Then we proceeded to have up on the New Milford Town Green a variety of different activities, from live music, from folks literally across the country, musicians coming to perform to support us. We had artisans, we had food trucks, we had this amazing kid zone where all the activities were free. And really, again, the intent was to, draw the community in so that we can have conversations about, what's going on, what can be done to fight the epidemic, and like just kind of connection.
I mean, there were so many booths with recovery and organizations that are here to help people.
Yeah.
And I think that was an important part to show people there's ways to get help.
Yeah. We're super proud of the relationships that we've formed since losing our son, Bryan Cody, 5 years ago. August 10th, 2019 was a day that changed my family's life forever. Since then, our family's been committed to, making sure that we put a huge spotlight on this national problem. A couple of anecdotes. We have lost over 107,000 Americans in the last 12 months. That's more than Afghanistan, Iraq, and Vietnam combined. That's significant, especially for me because I'm a U.S. Army veteran. It's really overwhelming. So this festival and the other activities that we host are super important, and we're grateful that we're doing this in collaboration with subject matter experts that come down and support us. They do Narcan training. They have programming, detox programming, inpatient IOP programming. These folks are on site during our festival, and really willing to, help families, help individuals that are seeking assistance with their recovery journey. What we found and what the data has proven is that when people get connected to proper services, the chances for recovery are really, really good. And the biggest problem that we had when we faced this problem was that we had no idea. We were unaware. I was unaware that when our son died, that 12 of his peers from right here in Little New Milford, Connecticut, also had passed away. When I found that out, I was shocked, alarmed, and that was really one of the main driving factors that helped us determine that we needed to stand up, step out from the shadows, and really make some noise about this. And I'm really proud of what we've done so far over the last 5 years.
Yeah, I just can't get over that number of 107,000 in just 1 year compared to other concerns that people have about losing people. I'm thinking here of gun violence,
Yeah.
which is about 60,000 a year is what my number is, the number I know. So this is really puts it in perspective of how major this is.
It's the biggest killer of people 18 to 49, maybe 50, in America right now.
Yeah.
It's a bigger killer than gun violence. It's a bigger killer than heart attacks. Drunk driving. It is the biggest threat that we face as a nation, and it's something that we can solve.
So maybe let's just go back a little bit. You mentioned about your son back in 2019, and I didn't even get a chance to say the name of your foundation.
Yeah.
I just kind of gave it a broad umbrella name of substance abuse disorder, but maybe talk about Bryan Cody and the foundation and how it came to be.
Well, Bryan Cody, our beautiful boy, was, just a wonderful kid. This is his picture back here. He was 20 years old when he passed. He had a daughter, Aubrey, who was 2 at the time. 5 weeks after he passed, his second daughter, Adeline, was born. He was a young man that was facing the challenges of today's society. It's very tough to be a young person. While Bryan made some bad decisions, he was the type of kid that would light up any room that he went into. He had a huge heart. He was a very great friend. The world is a sadder place without him in it. And certainly our family misses him greatly.
But if I could, he was trying to get better.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
he unlike maybe some who accidentally start using something without understanding it and
Yeah.
die suddenly, it sounds like he was actually working hard to overcome his disorder.
He was. I mean, this was a real dilemma, real big challenge for Bryan. He on his own, intuition, realized that he was in trouble, he started to reach out and self-advocate. He was, independently looking for assistance, and along the way he got himself into some programs. He tried to surround himself with resources. The problem that we ran into, number one, was the stigma that comes along with substance use disorder, which is awful. It's probably the biggest part of this killer, right? Is the stigma, but more importantly, it's the services and the resources and the lack thereof. Bryan eventually did find his way into an inpatient program, and Bryan was doing really well. He really made a real go at trying to beat this thing. And about midstream in his progress with this particular program, he was informed that the insurance company determined that his time was up, that he was no longer going to be funded for this programming, and that he basically had to go. And he called us, and he was very upset. He was crying. And he indicated that he wasn't ready. He wasn't ready. He had not, completed the services that he thought he needed. And we asked for an extension. We begged, we pleaded, but unfortunately, the insurance company has way too much power in these circumstances, and they did not allow that. Sure enough, a couple of weeks after he was discharged from a program he was doing well in, we found him dead.
Unbelievable. And I think you mentioned in a prior conversation that ironically you got the bill from the insurance company at about, I think, the same time that you
literally we got the call on a Saturday morning. We went and we identified Bryan, when we came home, on my kitchen island was a bill from the insurance company. Literally that very, like minutes after we identified Bryan, I received this bill for upwards of $30,000 for the treatment, which is outrageous. They didn't complete their services, and that's a whole nother conversation. But I will tell you, Ed, the reason why I'm so interested and eager to put energy behind your cause and what you're doing, your fight, is because I believe that I believe in you. I believe that you can help us bring some of these issues and matters to Hartford. The insurance company, needs to be held accountable. They're a big player in this, and they're not doing their part. 107,000 Americans have been disappointed by insurance companies. Whether it be, our situation where the complete programming wasn't offered, or some folks just are not able to even get into a place because they don't have the right insurance and so forth. Insurance companies are a big part of the problem, but not the only problem.
Well, you mentioned the stigma, and I think a lot of the festival and your organization is really working towards removing that stigma or mitigating in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And then also the insurance company, which doesn't value the importance of mental health treatment.
Yeah.
It's not like a broken arm that's so visible, and you can say, well, that arm is broken, it needs to be repaired. Any thoughts about how we can make insurance companies and the public more aware of mental health, which, as you know, doesn't always mean overdose. It could manifest itself in so many different ways. So it's like a root cause of many of our problems.
Well, totally agree with you. In fact, over the last 5 years, my wife and I have connected with a lot of people, and we've gone on sort of a discovery tour, right? What happened? Why did it happen? How did it happen? What are the circumstances that led to this? And almost unanimously, when you peel the onion back, as tough as it is, you realize that mental health is one of the root cause problems here. Mental health issues and the traumas that folks go through, often will manifest itself into other detrimental behaviors. Anything from substance use disorder to violence, self-sabotaging at work, lots of different things. Gun violence, domestic violence. All of these things are attributable back to mental health, and then you have other influencing factors such as, hunger and homelessness. And, you combine all these things together, there's really no wonder why, folks are trying to self-medicate or get so angry that they start to feel like they're in a fight or flight mode. And that's why we have these behaviors. Part of the reason. I'm convinced of it.
And again, in a prior conversation, we were talking about the cost to society of all of these manifestations that start with mental health, and how, again, you hear the comment, well, spending more money on mental health, it's very expensive. But compared to what? Compared to all of these things that we spend money on afterwards. And I think you've done some thinking and research about that.
We have. We wondered. We wondered about just this question. We wondered, how much does it cost to have this sort of revolving door at the emergency room? How much does it cost to deploy an ambulance and a police officer over and over and over again, right? The current way that we're doing, the current status quo is just frankly not working. Right. And so we looked into the numbers here, and honestly, the cost of actually putting together a comprehensive continuum of care is much less expensive than this ad hoc emergency room visit stuff that's going on. Because, again, we're not really solving the problem. In our current methodologies, we're not solving the problem. What we're doing is we're just taking a reactive approach to this. Someone overdoses, let's Narcan them, let's bring them to the hospital. They check the vitals. Next thing you know, they make them go, right? As opposed, and then sometimes in New Haven a few years back, they had dozens of overdoses in one day, and there were a couple of cases where there was one person overdosed multiple times. Now, a lot of people will take the easy path and they'll say, well, that person's just an addict. Well, no, that person's a human being that's struggling with something. And the truth is, that person would save the community a lot of money if that person was properly placed, properly planned for a continuum of care to help them get to where they need to be, rather than, hit them with Narcan, send them to the hospital, check vitals, kick them back out, and wash, rinse, and repeat 4 hours later, right? The cost of that is much more exorbitant than a comprehensive plan. And for the life of me, I can't understand how we're not thinking about it this way.
Right.
Look, right, wrong, or indifferent, when we were kids, right, and especially back in the 60s, and times are different, right? There was a period of time in which you could experiment and live through that, right? With the rise of fentanyl, that has changed. No longer do the young people have that benefit of experimentation, whether it's right or wrong. But now with fentanyl, it is a lethal killer, and it is a large percentage of people who overdose and die. It's because fentanyl. And the real problem is that this stuff is being slung around so much, you don't even know what's got fentanyl, what doesn't.
Right.
It's a real game changer in a bad way, and the results speak for themselves. I mean, this stuff is super, super powerful. I mean, it takes less than a tip of a pencil to kill somebody. You hear a lot about fentanyl, especially in this political season, especially at the national level. You hear, the border and, all this, and, how, that's the way we're going to stop the fentanyl. And the truth is that's actually not the only way that we're going to win this, right? That is a big part of the problem. The fentanyl coming over the border, to be very clear, is a very big part of the problem, but it's not the only problem. The bigger problem that we have is that we're not thinking about this problem right. We've been thinking about this problem the same way for 50 years, and the results are terrible, right? What we've been trying to do is basically kill the supply chain, right? No, what we need to do, we need an innovative thinker, Mr. Edelson, and I'm hoping that you can help spearhead this. We need to look at the other side of this equation, which is the demand side, right? Like, one way to stop the supply chain is to stop people wanting the drug. And the way that we do that is through recovery services. That's why we have to invest in the mental health treatment, the detox programs, the inpatient programs, and the sober housing stuff, and all the other stuff that goes along with it, IOP, recovery coaching. If we can help somebody who is sick and tired of being sick and tired and ready for a treatment, that's how we stop the flow of fentanyl, because that's one less person that's going to go looking for it.
Right. And as we've seen, so if you stop the flow of fentanyl, another supply chain will pop up a different way, or another drug will come up. Because again, 10 years ago, I never heard of fentanyl.
Well, now more recently you've got xylazine. You've got. Yeah, I mean, it's what I'm doing is I'm accentuating your point, right? Like, the problem is not the drug, that's the byproduct. The problem is the addiction, right? And the lack of awareness of how incredibly powerful recovery is, and how it is indeed possible. And that is such a transformation of thinking that that has to happen. It has got to happen. It's the demand side. We've got to hit the demand side. Yeah.
Going back to your organization and what you do, maybe say a word or two about how people can get involved, whether helping it out financially or as a volunteer.
Thank you. And we are Bryan Cody's Brothers and Sisters Foundation. We are a 501c3 charitable nonprofit. We are in good standing with with all the local agencies and so forth. And, we are effectively just a network of grieving families that have been impacted by the overdose epidemic in the worst possible way. What we are is a bunch of people who understand what this is all about. We understand the struggles with substance use disorder. We understand that recovery is indeed possible. And we have a lot of programs to help people and families find and connect with those services. You can learn more about us by visiting us on Facebook, which is hashtag Bryan Cody's Law. We also have a website, www.bryancodyslaw.org. And we are quite active, not just here in New Milford, but throughout the state. Unfortunately, we don't get a lot of funding. In fact, most of the funding comes from those grieving families that I mentioned. These festivals and these activities, we have a holiday Party for Children every year. We do Narcan pop-ups and handouts. We do, breakfast, flapjack breakfast for Father's Day and things like that. None of this is done without the generous donations of our members. On those medias, on those forums, whether it be Facebook or on the web, you can donate. And that's a tax deductible donation. But we understand also that times are tough. We know that families are having a hard time putting food on the table. So we ask that even if you can't donate monetarily, probably more importantly is just joining our fight. Come down, volunteer, help us put these festivals on. Not only will you be helping our network of grieving families, but you'll be doing something very, very powerful that I promise at the end of your volunteerism, you would be very, very proud of the work that you did because you're truly saving lives.
All right. Well, if you had a magic wand and you could change one thing in the state to help, in this area, anything come top of mind?
I would say we need to invest in recovery. And that's a very broad term and proposal, but that would cover.
We're talking about more beds, more facilities.
Yeah, that would cover the financial side of opening up more inpatient opportunities, more sober housing opportunities, more recovery coaching resources in the alliance of hope dealers that we have. That's what we need. Is an investment in recovery. Because as much as our alliance and ones similar ones to our organization, as much as we're doing, we are limited. Frankly, this will take an infusion of cash. And look, I know that there's been some great work by Mr. Tong, our state attorney general, with the opioid settlement things that he's done, and we are seeing the benefits of that. But that's not even enough, right? Okay. Really, when that does finally trickle down to here, in small town America, it's very limited. I mean, some of these towns are only getting $800. Right? That's not enough. This needs to be a line item in the Connecticut state budget. It needs to have a big number attached to it. And most importantly, we need people who have been impacted that are helping to direct those funds in the right places. Enough of people getting paid to really have no results. What we need are people who have been impacted that have the ability to influence where these funds are going, and these funds need to be part of the state's budget line items.
All right. Well, Tony, thank you very much for taking some time this morning to talk about this really important subject. And
thank you, sir.
I look forward to working in the future with you to see if we can make more progress for the state of Connecticut.
Well, you'll see me in your office up there in Hartford because I'm sure you're going to do this.
One step at a time.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening.